Hello, I'm Shaun Thomas, and today I'm going to be going over the Grissom Video Lecture 2, or Grissom Video Lecture Phase 2, Part 2. Um, so essentially this is how to read and write data to the different registers on the VCNL. So over here, just the SDA, SDL pin to connect to the back of the M5, and that sets up the I2C bus. And then so right here is the address of the VCNL 4040 on the I2C bus. So then the wire knows where it needs to go to get information from the VCNL. So over here is where the initialization of the wire begins. The values from up here. Here's the address that we want to get from data. Here's the address that we want to get data from on the VCNL 4040, which is specifically this register. And we want to get 2 bytes from it. So then the wire begins transmission to the specific address of the VCNL 4040. So it talks only to that on the I2C bus. Then the wire is going to write the data from the register address that was specified up here. And then the wire ends the transmission right here. So then what's going to happen here is the wire is going to get the 2 bytes over the VCNL 4040 from its address. And if the data is available here, what's going to happen is first we initialize nothing inside of our 2 bytes right here. And then the first byte is going to be the low byte. Second byte is going to be the high byte. And then there's just going to be some, I guess, bit shifts right here to be able to insert both of those bytes into this data variable. And then that's going to get printed right here. So then the data that was stored in here is going to be the data that we've saved in here in this variable. And that gets printed out right here. As you can see, that's what happens here. So these 2 bytes were initially inside of this register that was defined up here. So I believe this file is pretty similar to that one, except here we move all that into a function. And then there's also another function to write data to the register as well as reading it. So I'm going to start building this and explain it. So over here is the same code that we had previously. But over here, I guess, are 2 different addresses that we want to read and write from. And here are the header or the method declarations. So right here is the same logic and code from the previous file, essentially. So the wire begins transmission again to the register, or I guess it's just the address of the VCNL 4040, and then it wants to write the information from the register here. And then it ends the transmission. And then it gets the 2 bytes it needs from here again. This is all the same code. And then it will just read from whatever address it had. Here's a little different. It has 2 bytes right here that needs to be written to the address, the register that's at the address. So again, it begins the transmission for the address that the VCNL 4040 is at on the wire for the I2C bus. Then it's going to write to the register address 2 bytes, and it's going to add 1 by 1 the bytes. So first the low byte and then the second byte, and then it's going to end the transmission. So it knows that all the writing to the register address is complete. And then pretty much the rest of the code just calls those 2 functions. It initializes the wire with these variables up here again, and then it reads this address right here on the VCNL, I guess. Then it's going to read another one. It's going to write to that same address. Then it's going to write this new variable, or it's not variable, but 2 bytes to it, and then it's gonna read it again. Um, then I believe I already ran that. So you can see right here, that's the output of it. Another thing to note is that if you disconnect the vCNL 4040 and reconnect it, I think it might change. No, I guess not. I think there was a way to like make it so that you would have it forget the values of the address. I'm not sure how he did that though, but so that's mainly all of second file. The third file was essentially having it um, sort of as its own, I guess, like wrapper of all of that code into like a new class. Um, so what happens in here is it reads the registers of the actual 3 sensors on the VCNL. Um, this is the proximity data, I think. This is the white light data, and then this is the third sensor. I forget what it was. Like it's ambient light. Um, so essentially, what happens here is it reads the specific register for each of those 3 um, values that it's trying to store for each sensor, and then it prints it out. Um, and then right here, he initializes the values of the 3 sensors as well. So if I go ahead and run this, uh, to run this, as you can see, it prints the 3 values like it did previously. Um, but now the values should be different because it's not wrapped by the Adafruit library. This is just the raw values that are actually inside of the actual registers. If I put my finger really close to it, it should go up much higher um, than what the Adafruit allowed. Um, so overall, that's all of the takeaways I had from the Grissom video lecture phase 2, part 2.